Welcome to the CP Media platform, brought to you by Team CP, your endurance coaching specialist. I am Angus Petrie, and along with me, as always, to my right, is our team captain, Richard Greer. Welcome back, Rich.
Yeah, good stuff, Angus. I've upgraded this week. We're out of lockdown. I've paid the big dollars in Kiwi, and hopefully I'll hang in there and be able to get through the show in one piece.
Got some quality internet. That's bloody good to hear, mate. Good to hear. How has your week been?
No, really good. Things are ticking along. Back into, I don't have to pretend to be a school teacher anymore, so that's good value. Can get a bit of work done, and even went for a run sort of just before lunch the other day, so that was a bit of a win.
So you have to fair call to say that those school teachers actually do earn their hard-earned dollar?
Yeah, no, they do very well, very, very well. I was just pretending to think that I knew what I was doing, but yeah, just trying to make it up as we go along. They do a great job, absolutely.
Excellent. And it's been another week of fine sunny days. Great for adventuring, great for getting out there and about.
Yeah, and it's cool just to share and catch up and share images and all that sort of stuff, different adventures that people are up to. So yeah, we've got a wee adventure plan this weekend. We're going to plan. Yeah, hopefully make the most of some of that weather.
Excellent. Well, it is Wednesday night. We are live, so we have a show to run here. And Rich, tell me about tonight.
Yeah, tonight, pretty excited about tonight, actually. Tonight's all about empowering others and getting some ideas from a few different people about how do we start our own journey or restart our fitness health journey effectively. So threw a few feelers out there, and really excited to have Gemma McCaw on the show tonight. The reason for that, Gemma is obviously a top-level sports person, but it hasn't always been that way. So she's been a top-level sports person, then she went away and had baby Charlotte. Charlotte is 18 months old now. And within that time, after having her, she's gone back, like Rio Olympics, had Charlotte in December 2018, and then from there, sort of slowly build herself back and into... what was that? 2019, end of 2019, she got back into top-level hockey, and this year she represented New Zealand for a 250th Test match. I got to know Gemma as she built up to the Red Bull Defiance Multisport race in Wanaka, so have a good sort of understanding about sort of her training and things like that as it was from Multisport, but obviously hockey is a completely different level and completely different killer fish, and the level that she's working at as well. Yeah,
so Gemma is... Well, I think Wikipedia tells me. I won't pretend that I'm on the ball of hockey knowledge, but Wikipedia tells me that Gemma is the 5th highest New Zealand women's goal scorer of all time. Also the 5th highest, most capped player of all time too. So has a real pedigree. I've just found out that she's got, there's another famous half to her relationship. I don't know, didn't know much about that, but...
maybe you'll be able to fill us in about that one later on.
But I suppose, Rich, without further ado, shall we welcome Gemma to our studio?
Perfect. Sounds good. Welcome, Gemma.
Come in, Gemma.
Hi, guys. Yep, I'm here. Thanks for having me.
Good stuff. How are you getting on? How's your lockdown been, and how's your managing to enjoy some of these sunny days?
Yeah, it's been actually really good. I've spent probably the last 6 or 8 months on the road as I got back into hockey. So for us actually to be in one spot for the last 6 weeks has actually been really good. Lucky enough to have my mum in our bubble. So where I saw you, Rich, is up the top of Huntsbury track there the other day.
Yeah,
so
right.
We've got out for a couple of mountain bikes, which is nice. You need babysitters for that to go together. And yeah, just done a couple of little missions. So keeping fit. But doing stuff more just to enjoy it and get out and about. And we're close by Hagley Park. So we've done a few bike rides with Charlotte as well on the front in her little seat there as well. So yeah, just a real mixture. But like you say, the weather's been amazing, which makes it easier and better to get outside.
Yes, awesome. So let's just go back a step, shall we? In terms of like we met leading up into Red Bull Defiance, I think 2018. You went and you did that, and actually, as a bit of history, you actually passed us and gave us a wave and a high five on the way down from Roy's Peak, which was good. And you guys were having a good time. You had the UE Boom speakers singing along, having an awesome time as you sailed past. It was good.
Yeah, I think, firstly, I was pretty grateful to have some great coaching. I was stepping into I retired from hockey and I thought I wanted a challenge. So I went in and thought Defiance would be a good place to start in Wanaka. Didn't really know what I was getting myself into. So I remember us up there, Rich, at Victoria Park, just riding off the curb. That was about the extent of my mountain bike in session 1. So I started there and was lucky enough to have a really great teammate in Reedy off Bondi Rescue, for any of those that watch that.
How did you get involved with Reedy, by the way? Just a step back.
Yeah, so in 2013 we did a Halberg Disability Foundation Challenge, New Zealand versus Australia, and he was in the Aussie team. We actually beat them. I will say that now. So we basically ran, cycled and rode the length of New Zealand, all for Sir Murray Halberg and the amazing work he does with the trust, and managed to raise about 60 grand for, people with disabilities able to play sport and wheelchairs and things like that, which was really neat to do. And we travelled, we went over the ferry, over the Cook Strait, and then we went in camper vans, and everyone kind of did a leg. So we were cycling and we were rowing on the ergs, and then running, and we finished up in Dunedin. So that's kind of how we met, and we stayed in touch ever since 2013. And when this opportunity came up, he said, let's do it. So that was kind of how it all began.
Yeah, brilliant. Good stuff. So in terms of from there, how did you go, like having baby Charlotte and then sort of getting back on the hockey field again? What was the sort of first steps? Was that the idea that I'm just going to go and play some social hockey, or actually did you have the goal of like, maybe I want to get back there one day? How did that sort of unravel, go for you?
Yeah, I guess the first thing is that people say that, a baby will change your life, and it does in the best way possible. So I was relatively into my fitness and doing things like that. But probably when I had Charlotte, those early days of sleep deprivation and things, I didn't think about the Olympics. I obviously, was supporting friends and watching people who were kind of training at the time for the Olympics, but probably didn't think about it. It wasn't until a couple of months down the track. So after I had her, I had a few weeks just really taking it easy and kind of, I guess, listening to my body. And then I just started out by basically, it's that whole thing of one foot in front of the other. So I just started kind of walking. The walking progressed into jogging, and I guess it just gave me that little bit of time out, and it just made me feel better and better every time I exercised. So I played my first game. Basically, the club hockey team rang me up, Redos, Reindeer, and they said, will you fill in for a game? And Charlotte was 4 months old, and I thought, jeepers, I've only really been jogging with the pram. So I kind of said, well, why not? I should be fine. So I rocked up for my first kind of session. By then I'd obviously been trying to do a little bit more interval based stuff and a little bit of strength stuff, and I'd seen a woman's physio and done all the required things to get yourself back, because it can be risky, and you do need to listen to your body. So I went back and I played, and I crossed that line. They call it white line fever. And I ran out there, with a bunch of friends on a Saturday, and I loved that feeling. It's kind of, that feeling at the start of a race or something, all the nerves, and you don't really know the outcome. You don't know what's going to happen, and it's that excitement. And I went out there and I absolutely loved running around. I wasn't as fit as I had been in the past, but, I still just absolutely loved it. And I hopped off after I had to run off and feed Charlotte. And then, I was just reflecting, and I guess all those endorphins and the connection with teammates and all those great things you feel. I actually thought I really enjoyed this. So, and the coach said, you're welcome back next week. And it started there. And basically from there, I started to think more about National Hockey League, which is with my province, because I was born in Tauranga, a North Island girl. So I do find it a bit cold down here, I must say. No. So I started to think about provincial hockey. So again, tried to tailor my training to that. Rich and we were tag teaming with the exercise, because he was working full time. And, he was a big part in helping me get back. So allowing me kind of that half an hour of training. Had a watt bike in the garage, would do laps up and down the street, kind of Tabata based sessions. I picked up the phone to my provincial not captain, coach, and he said, I'd love to have you back. So that was in September. So again, I just had a timeline and basically aimed to keep going from there. So that was the first thing. And I think, when you have a goal or something to work towards, it does make it a little bit easier, because then you can work back from there. Sometimes, especially when times get tough, so to speak, and you've got a baby and, maybe you've had a bad night, it is quite hard to get up and train. But, when you've got something there at the end, you can kind of keep going. And I felt as soon as I had that next big goal, it actually really excited me. And I just had to work towards, getting my fitness and tailoring my fitness, I guess, and working smarter, because the reality is your baby is the most important thing, and some things will come up and you can't do the training that you want. So it's actually accepting that and just focusing on what you can do, not what you can't do. So that was probably the timeline to September. And I played that and absolutely loved it, and then got asked to play in the Aussie League. So a week later, me, Richie and Charlotte were on a plane to Sydney to represent Adelaide over there. So one thing kind of, led to the next thing. And probably by this stage, I was thinking, people started, the Tokyo 2020 starts coming around, and you kind of go, that's kind of tempting. And talking to my family and they said, well, why don't you, give it a good crack. And meanwhile, at the provincial tournament, the new coach, he came in and said, can I have a coffee with you? So I thought, potentially, he might just want to catch up. But he just said, basically in that I'd love for you to be part of the squad. What would that look like? And that was quite neat talking to him, and he really appreciated, I guess, he has a family, and how important that side of it is, and how working together, you kind of need that support team. And I went and played in Aussie, and then basically got named in the squad and had to report for training start of November in the Tokyo squad. So it happened quite quickly. But like I say, just those small goals right at the beginning. It was just about, jogging for a minute, walking for a minute with the pram for 15 minutes, right through to being able to do, a 30-minute interval session, at a reasonable clip as well. And I also went to Gym Orange Theory, which, combines kind of interval-based training, weights, and rowing. So it was quite a nice combination when I was short of time, just to get a really good hit, and you work in your heart rate zones. So I knew I could get to a certain level there. So that really helped with my fitness as well, and having a reasonable gym set up at home.
And just going back there, when you're starting to find your legs, I just want to delve into a little bit there of, you had Richie at home there, and like you said, you were both sharing training, but you were, I'm guessing, able to use each other for that motivation, because certainly know there's a few of our athletes that are mums that have come back, and even solo dads that are out there trying to do it, or stay-at-home dads and things that we know through the Team CP group sessions and things that are run, that it's really important sometimes to have that group of people, or that support, or that being able to bounce it and find that self-motivation. You were obviously lucky with Richie there to be able to use, even though probably not training together, but be able to use each other for that drive. Yeah,
definitely. I think, he's a big reason why I'm here. Do you know what I mean? If I didn't have his support, and sometimes it annoyed me, because he, I always felt better for it, but, he gave me that extra push. And one of the things I think from boarding school he used to say is feet on the floor, and that's a really nice, straight way of saying, right, get up and get moving. And, the only kind of workout that you regret is the one you didn't do, and I often felt that way. Sometimes it's just about putting your shoes on. But by having someone, and we talk about a little bit of hockey, who's on your bus, and they should be, the people who's sitting on your bus supporting you, because as we know, whether you're playing hockey or training for a coast to coast or doing something you've never done, you need people in your corner, that really want to see you do well. And sometimes I think it's not always about being motivated, but it's being about dedicated. Do you know what I mean? So, getting up and having someone, but also a step back from that is, lining everything up, which allows you to get out there and train, so being organized, having a bit of a plan. But like I say, that when someone else is next to you, willing you on, who's on the same team as you, it's hugely, hugely powerful, like you say. And even within a team, when you're sharing images or, sending things in, what missions you're doing or training, it really, really helps. And like I say, I've got, I am with someone who is extremely motivated for success, and he epitomizes hard work and dedication as he's walking past with a bit of chocolate. But yeah, like I say, having that support team, and it doesn't just have to be, your partner or someone, but even if it's a friend, I think you just need one person that wants to see you do well. And that's kind of, that's been a big helper for me. And my mum is the same. She's helped me ever since I was young as well. And mum and dad as well have been hugely important. But like you say, I think having people who's on your bus, and sometimes if the right people aren't on your bus, you've got to maybe stop at the bus stop and take a look sometimes, because I know that it's really hard for people when one person is trying really hard to train and you're trying to balance, you've got a family or other commitments as well. So it's being really open and talking about that as well, about how you're feeling and, the waves that you go through with training, because some days you spring out of bed, and you're feeling really good, and other days, you think, how am I going to get through today in terms of the training load? But having someone support you is hugely important. But like I say, planning and organisation when you've got a baby is probably would be my number one thing, because if I knew what I was doing, some things may come up, but especially in the morning, if Rich had to have her for an hour, while I went and did that, we'd already talked about it. So we had a bit of a plan around it.
Yeah, cool. You talk about that bus, and that's a great analogy, isn't it? In terms of you choose to allow certain people on your bus that are heading in the same direction for you. But you mentioned it just a second ago there, just in terms of actually what happens when there's someone on your bus that actually is negative and going in the wrong direction. Do you want to just sort of, and I'm sure that like you've got some great support, but I'm sure there's people that maybe question what you're doing that's close to you as well. How do you deal with that to make sure that you've got the people around you that you need to on your bus that is going in the direction that you need to do? And also, I guess part of that's questioning, and you would have dealt with this as well, is am I doing the right thing? And should I actually be doing this right now?
Yeah, I think, like you say, the first thing is, especially when you've got, children and that, and they are your priority, at times, and I know with adventure racing and that, which requires a lot of time, it's that you can be training and feeling a little bit selfish or guilty. I know that Rich has definitely said that before, but I think you've got to if you understand who you are and, what you're trying to achieve, and are really clear and transparent about that, I think it's important that the right people, so to speak, or the right people on your bus often will support you because they want to see you do well. I know that there's still people probably out there, and I've had it in the past that, I went up Roy's Peak the other day and someone commented, where's Charlotte, obviously with her nana, won't you ever do some parenting, so you can get some, and I know that's social media, but you can get some quite harsh comments from people that you don't know. Hopefully the people around you, are supporting you. But the way that I've, I guess, dealt with it is always talked to my family about it, and listened to how they're feeling. And it's got to be a joint decision. It's a bit like a God zone or something. It's not just one person saying, I'm doing this. It's actually, how can we do this together? And you actually want to support and help the other person. And if someone probably isn't conducive to, or on the same page as you, I mean, it's quite a hard thing to talk about, but the more people that you can have on your bus, the better. And like I say, I've always been really fortunate, but I know in any kind of culture, whether it's, at work, or if you have people which are, not helpful or, don't help you move you closer to your goals, it's actually trying to step away from them and step around people that actually will help you achieve your goals. And I think energies are contagious. So, for me, it's who you choose to spend your time with is pretty important as well. So people should want to see you do well. and support you. And if they're not, you probably just have to reassess it at where you're at and like where you want to be, I guess, and bridging that gap, because when people aren't so supportive, it makes it a lot harder, to physically and mentally go through and chase a big goal or a small goal. If you don't have people supporting you. So what I would say is just try and think about who wants to see you do well. And if it's, I guess, people from outside your circle commenting, they might not have the full story, of what you're going through. And I think just communicating effectively, and surrounding yourself with people who want you to do well.
So how do you deal with, obviously, social media? You mentioned that before. That obviously, for social media stars like the three of us here in this clip, Richard. No, but obviously there's some great positives that come out of it, and I guess some of it is required maybe on your part to produce social media or to be the presence there, but obviously the good comes with it. But how do you deal with the bad of that? Like you say, people commenting about, are you going to be a mum, or are you going to be?
I think to be completely honest, it isn't always easy, like no matter if it's in person or online. Anyone that can say that they don't 100% care what people think, there might be some people out there, but I know for me, in the past, I guess it has affected me, because you want to do the right thing, you want to live to your values and do the right thing, and sometimes that can be misunderstood. People might not see the full picture. But I guess the one thing that I've tried to do, and as soon as you enter or engage with somebody, it's not that helpful. And I think when people are saying negative things, it says more about them than it does about you. So my thing has always just been, like you say, social media can be used hugely for a great influence. And if you're going to have an impact or an influence, let it be a positive one. And as long as you're authentic and true to yourself and living to those values, and putting out things, that are you can't go too wrong. But know that, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And it's probably just accepting that. And I think sometimes if you're trying to be someone that you're not, that's when you can trip up. So for me, just trying to be true to myself and, like I say, put out positive things. And I enjoy fitness and, food and my lifestyle and what we do. And I love being able to share elements of that. But it's also, just understanding who you're choosing to listen to, because you might get, 50 positive comments, and then the one negative one is the one you remember, and that's like you might coach 50 people and get great reviews, and one person might not be happy with something, and you'll always remember that. So I think it's about focusing on the good. When we focus on the good or what people say, it definitely helps. When we hone in on the negative, you can get caught in some of those thinking traps, and there's definitely, I've had my fair share of criticism, just over the last wee while. Obviously being with New Zealand's son. No, I shouldn't say that. But I've got a little bit of, I know he's probably listening. No, he's not listening in the other room. But I've just learnt like I'm saying, it affects everyone. So my thing would be to, before you go and say something, think about how the other person might feel. If you got nothing nice to say, don't kind of say it at all. But people are entitled to their opinions, and I can't get too wrapped up in them. Like I say, focus on the positive, and your family and friends who are, cheering you on and appreciating what you do, and try not to get too caught up, because I think with our younger people as well, it's a real worry that, we're focusing on looking at our screen, and feeling good from the amount of likes or comments. It shouldn't be about that. You know what I mean? More human interactions, the better. But getting cool photos and that of your journey along the way and inspiring others to get out there, I think is hugely important too.
Awesome, Gemma. Just like as you say, go back to those people on your bus, and they're the most important people, aren't they? And they'll help and support you when you are battling a little bit, and talk it out with them. Just changing tack a little bit, like the training that you do, like, hey, I just made it into the New Zealand team. Like you mentioned that it's hard and you train lots and all that sort of stuff, but how do you get through that? One training session that you introduced to me was your treadmill 30-30-30 session. 30 on, 30 off for 30 minutes. Brutal. And so how do you get through those sessions when you're like, what do you do mentally? How do you, when you are battling, when you just want to walk now, what do you do? How do you manage that?
Yeah, I guess I just I break it right down to focusing on each step. You know, it was a bit like in Defiance when I just want to get to the next little part of the hill, you know, not focus, because it can be a little bit overwhelming if I think, gee, I've got 30 reps of these at 20 Ks an hour, you know, you start to think, but I'm just focusing on I guess, the next step or the next few seconds and just breaking it down, because that seems a lot more doable than thinking, wow, I've got to go like this for 30 seconds. It's just getting yourself, and it's amazing, you know, when you're just focusing on each step and staying, I guess, in the moment and not allowing yourself to go, oh, this is hard, this, you know, you'll go there sometimes, but, you know, trying to be present and stay in the moment, you know, and focus on just, you know, your technique or your step definitely helps me. There's times when I look at the clock and I count it down, don't get me wrong. But it's that whole thing, one foot in front of the other. Do you know what I mean? Because altogether it looks quite big. It's a bit like a Defiance or anything like that, but just to the next point or to the next 10 seconds, that's probably how I stay there.
Are there any mantras that you've got that you sort of say to yourself when you are not wanting to be there anymore? Is there any sort of words that go around in your head?
Yeah, a coach once said to me, how do you want to be remembered? And it was just one of those things that I kind of, you know, I thought, wow. And it's that whole thing, you know, do you want to be the person that gave up when it got tough, you know, or do you want to be able to push through? And I think the other thing is that the more you do it, you know, the better you get at it, I think. It's around this mental toughness. It doesn't necessarily get easier, but you get better. And I think the more that you can train and get to that level and just push yourself a little bit more, and I guess I've been lucky because I've seen Rich do that in transition from rugby into God Zone. But if you can just get a little bit more out each time, you know, it's your mind will take you further than you think. And that's one thing I've been really amazed at. You know, I actually have come back as fit, or if not fitter, after having Charlotte in a hockey sense, because I think that mentally I can push through a lot more since having, you know, a baby and things like that. So for me, it's been really interesting because I never would have thought I'd got to that level. But, you know, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So I guess in short to your question, just focusing on, you know, and preparing yourself to push a little bit more out each time and get yourself, and, you know, it's being comfortable at being uncomfortable. If I know it's a little bit cliche, but the good thing is with an interval like that, it's only 30 seconds. And when you've done adventure racing, you know, it's a whole day. So I actually count myself quite lucky in those high intensity efforts, because a game of hockey's over in 60 minutes. But yeah.
So we've got a question here, Gemma, from Facebook land.
Yeah.
And I want to just do this in two parts because we're just talking about. But the question is, how different is your hockey versus adventure racing training, and was it hard to adjust? So I just want to get you to explain two things there. One, physical. Obviously, there's a different muscle group and things to hockey as there is to there. So how big a change was it to go from a hockey player, short intensity, hour-long type sort of thing, to doing these whole lot of other activities? But also, just like we're talking about, the mental mindset, I guess, is it easier to push through a hockey game when there's so many different things going on and the ball's moving so fast and you're constantly got lots of things to just keep focusing on, against being stuck in a climb that's an hour long, you know, trying to knock it off? It must be, you know, quite a different training of the mind as well as the body.
Yeah, definitely. So I think in the first part of your question, yeah, I'd done hockey my whole life, you know, so I hadn't done a lot of adventure stuff. So my fitness was geared more to, you know, the high intensity short stuff. So as Rich will tell you, it was a bit of a transition when he first started coaching me. You know, physically I felt fit, but I probably wasn't fit to, you know, climb for 14 Ks up a hill. So slowly I just had to, I guess, change the system. We've got an anaerobic system into, aerobic stuff, and just like you say, time on your feet and time on the bike. And it was actually really hard for me, if I'm honest, to change from the hockey stuff to the adventure stuff. I found that probably a bigger challenge than getting back into hockey this time, if I'm honest. Mentally, like you say, with hockey, it's hugely exciting. You're 60 minutes, there's a ball, there's, sometimes a crowd, and there's so many things going on. You're always thinking, you're adapting. And then I just remember, excuse me, on moments, and some of the things that I've done, that you're in this climb, like you say, for an hour, and you're just there, and you can't escape it. You can't stop. You can't put your hands on your hips, and you can't look over for a sub. Yeah. And that's why I think adventure stuff is the hands down best thing for your mental toughness, or whatever you want to call it. You can't escape it. So like I say, you have to become comfortable, or more comfortable at being kind of uncomfortable, stuck in a climb and things like that. So for me, extremely hard. I wasn't, I thought I was reasonably fit, but then as Rich will tell you, you throw me up some hills and I'm sucking in the big ones, and I really had to have a good talk to myself on some of those moments of actually keeping on going. But it's amazing, again, with some training, you slowly get better and better. And that's what I think of, having something like Team CP or coaches and stuff that can guide you through it, So if I didn't have that training plan from Rich, I wouldn't have been able to, focus on bit by bit. And so that got me a little bit fitter, which made it easier. But yeah, initially going from, I remember doing the spring challenge, and we were out there, we did the 9-hour one, and I did a hockey tournament the week before, and I was carrying my bike uphill, and I cramped up, and I, both calves, and I just couldn't move. And I just thought, gee, I'm so out of condition. I did have 10 days of hockey as well, but the systems are just, so different, that I was really battling. So yeah, it was a huge, huge challenge for me to change over. And even the stuff that I do now, it's more for the mental challenge than it is the physical, because I know that it's not going to be over in an hour, and that's why I have great respect for anyone, that does any sport, but especially, this, adventure racing.
Yeah, brilliant. Just to wrap things up, would you like one piece of advice for others that are taking on their own challenges? What would you sort of say to that, Gemma?
Yeah, I would just say the first thing is embrace it. It's not always easy, but it's definitely worth it. I think, there will be, it's a bit like a wave. There'll be kind of your ups and your downs, and you just got to keep pushing through the tough times. And I guess the reward and the result for yourself is the thing, when you get to the finish line, is enjoyable, but it's sometimes about the journey. So just, setting yourself up and enjoying it as much as you can along the way. And like I say, embrace the challenge, because most of these things aren't easy, but everyone would do it if it was easy.
Good stuff.
So what we might do, Rich, is we might flick over into Cushla's corner and bring Cushla in for a bit of a chat. But Gemma, if you've got time, we'd love you to stay with us here, and a couple of wee subjects that Cushla wants to talk about that would be really great to get a bit of your feedback on that as well, if you're good with that. And hopefully Cushla is standing by in Methven live, ready for us. Come in.
Yes. Hi. Great to hear all your insights, Gemma. Funnily enough, a lot of the points I had to discuss tonight around getting back after having a kid or starting out from, say, zero fitness have been all things you've mentioned, which is probably why you've been so successful in getting back to where you are tonight.
Nice work. Cushla, we were going to talk a little bit about sort of taking things back a step, as what Gemma's already talked about, and some of the, I guess, those foundations. Like as a dietitian, you talk about food, but it's not just about food, is it? It's about sleep, and it's about all different things, routines and bits and pieces. So to make sure that we can do those things, and as Gemma's talked about, family and organising our time, what are sort of one or two key things that you would like to sort of share from your experience of working with others that is super important to allow us to get out the door and help us do these things?
Absolutely. I think, yeah, I mean, food and nutrition is such a key part of health for sure, and you can't look over that. But I guess it comes down, it was those similar things that Gemma was talking about, and that's having that really good time management and planning out your day. And I mean, not every day is going to go to plan. There'll be things that pop up that you weren't expecting, especially when you have a child. But having that support network to say, hey, what's your day looking like? This is what I'm up to, and then trying to get out and take advantage of, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or just any time you have to just try and get something in. You're always going to feel better for some form of exercise or training than doing nothing. But you do need that support to help you and to help balance that in your everyday life. Yeah. And of course, with that sort of routine and organisation, sleep comes down to that. And I think sleep deprivation can be a very nasty cycle, and that's probably easier said than done when you've got a newborn child. But once you're sleep deprived, you feel a bit more down, and you often, in terms of nutrition, you crave a lot more of the sweet foods, and that's basically because your body's just in this what we call, the fight or flight response the whole time, and your stress hormones are really high. And you're just craving sugar, you're feeling a bit more down. So sleep is really key in terms of getting that good routine, good structure, and good organisation as well.
Howard, do you want to comment on that, Gemma? There's a bit of nodding going on there.
Yeah,
no, in the house.
I'm just totally agree. I think the first pillar in good nutrition is regulating your sleep. Physiologically, we reach for sugar, and I know myself that on the days I hadn't had a good sleep, when I went to get, my coffee in the morning, I would look at the muffin and it would suddenly jump out at me, saying for me to buy it. Whereas when I, had slept a little bit better, like I say, those cravings, and you're not in the stress response, as you're saying. So for me, actually, I probably should have mentioned that, because it's a great point, that the reason I could get back is because I think I had enough sleep. And we got Charlotte into a nice routine, which allowed me, from about 6 or 7 months on, to get a full night's sleep. Now, I can tell you, when you've had 8 hours sleep, you feel like a different person. The nights, the 2 or 3 or 4 wakes a night, I had zero desire to exercise. I have a lot of people say to me, how do you do it with a baby? That was the key thing, is getting the sleep kind of sorted as much as you can. Obviously, the first 6 months, they need feeding through the night and things like that. But once they can start sleeping through the night, it's not easy. And I'm not preaching, because some, unfortunately, not everyone has a baby that might sleep through the night. But that was the key in regulating my training and my nutrition. Suddenly when I was sleeping better, I made better choices. Once you start making better choices, you've got better fuel on board, and you can actually train at that level that you require. So I think it's a cycle. You sleep better, you eat a bit better, you eat better, you want to exercise. When you exercise, you sleep a bit better. So yeah, I was just, what Cushla was saying is 100% true, and that the sleep would come before the exercise and the food for me. Regulate that, and the hydration, obviously. Drink more water, and you definitely feel better. So that was a huge component, even though I've just talked about the physical. Mentally, by having a bit more sleep and sleeping when the baby sleeps, I wasn't afraid to make sure, and that was probably the athlete mindset that I had, because getting myself in a good headspace and looking after my well-being was just so important. So just 100% agreeing with all those points.
Yep. It's not perfect though, is it? Like, that's the thing with sleep, and that's the thing with life, and that's part of your journey back again, isn't? Like, what do you do? Like, hey, you've got a bit of a plan about what you sort of want to do in regards to training, but then you've been up all night. How did you cope with that?
Yeah, there was a few times. I remember the 4.5 month sleep regression that got me good. Basically, that whole week that I had, lots of wakes in the night, I just, I guess, didn't train, like I had prepared to. This was kind of in the earlier days. So I just, it's that whole listen to your body, and I didn't want to stress myself out more by putting, saying you have to do this training, and that's a bit of the balance that you have to have. If you miss one session, or 2 sessions in a week, Is it going to be the difference at the end of the day? For me, I didn't think it would be. I was actually better to take it a little bit easier, because when you are in that stress response and then you go out and you're trying to run and then you're hyperventilating, because you've got nothing left, it's really not worth it. So on those days, I would walk or do something a lot lighter. But as Cushla was saying, some days it's just 15 or 20 minutes. I would just quickly jump on the bike, even when I didn't feel like it. When I was a little bit tired, but I always felt better for doing something. So that was even walking with the pram. I made sure I got out every single day. But it's not perfect. But yeah, you do the best with what you're given each day, I guess.
And Cushla, probably for you, you talk about, I'm sure Jim has got this down absolutely pat with a young one and things, but time management and planning, pretty important key to allow you to be healthy, eat healthy, and get exercise. And, we talk about the average person's going to work for 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, all their home duties, all of those sort of things. So things like meal preps and all those sort of things, and doing a lot of trying to juggle all that. How key is that to making things run sweetly?
Well, it's funny you say that, because I think about all the discussions I have with clients. So much of it comes back to just planning a little bit ahead and being organized, like whether it's your grocery shopping or your meals for the week, or what you're making for lunches, or what's happening in the week that you have to juggle. It all comes down to organization at the end of the day. And I think it only takes a little bit of effort or time each week to just try and have even a rough plan of what's going on, and making a bit of a grocery list and thinking ahead to actually make your life so much easier and just make being healthy so much easier. I think people fall into a trap of, skimping on sleep, and then they wake up and they're tired and they don't have time to make a lunch, so then they're buying a lunch that's not as healthy, and it just turns into this vicious cycle. But really, it only takes a small amount of time to make your life so much easier and healthier as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's really the foundation is planning. Yeah.
Are you a list person? Gemma, are you a list person?
Yeah, we do the same thing, Monday through to Sunday, or we might buy enough for, so we've got 5 meals, planned out. And then on the weekend, we might be able to go down and do the 5 o'clock shop. But yeah, in order to eat well, and for us as well with our training and that refueling, getting food in so that you can recover for your next session. We order groceries online. Well, we did before lockdown. It was a bit of a novelty, doing an outing to the supermarket, but yeah, we try and plan ahead. Otherwise, you spend money, you go to the supermarket hungry at 5 o'clock, and it is harder to eat well, and then you don't have things for lunches. So all those things, taking a packed lunch, being organised. So I'm a bit of a list person, and I try and do that supermarket shop that's delivered, saves time. It's really easy to sit with your corresponding list and order your things online. And you don't do it when you're starving, so you don't get the salt vinegars, thrown in on the way home and things like that. But yeah, definitely it all comes down to planning and prep, I guess, in order to, and for a lot of athletes it's about actually fueling. And when you skip meals, or you don't get good quality nutrient dense food in, it's really, really hard to back up the session the next day. And I've found that, when I've been busy getting Charlotte sorted, and then it's been 6 hours since I've had something, and I've come off the back of a really high intensity training, by that point, I'm cooking dinner, starving, and I don't, what you eat the day before is going to impact the next day's training. So you've got to really be thinking ahead the night before or the day before. So that's a huge component. As Cushla said, number one thing is organisation, and I've found that that's super important.
Yeah. Cushla, I just want to quickly ask your thoughts on, and without this is not pushing anybody's barrier here or anything, but we talk about time management, eating, nutrition, and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of those options out there. I won't name any, but have your dinner delivered to you for 3 nights or 2 nights or 4 nights a week. Thoughts around those kind of options for the busy person?
Well, it's all about context, but in general, I think for some people, getting I guess ingredients delivered, which you can create a recipe and everything's measured out and done for you, can be really practical for some people. And you know, it might make them try different foods, or I know some of the boxes that are delivered that aim to be quite healthy and balanced, so they may be healthier than what they would make if they were rushing around trying to think of a dinner to make, or relying on takeaways or something. So I think there are benefits to it, but I guess they are more expensive than if you were buying the ingredients yourself. And they can also be a bit fiddly and time consuming, some of them. So there's pros and cons to it, and it really depends for the individual what works for them. But I think there's quite a selection of, you know, quite nutritious box meal, make your own type companies out there. So yeah, it comes down to what works for the individual.
Yeah, and I guess that a little bit derived on what, as an individual and your activities that you're doing, as to what nutrients you're actually looking for and what quantity of a nutrient you're looking for as well. I guess you get a bit limited in that respect as well.
And I guess for someone like Gemma, you know, quite a high performance athlete, you may want a bit more flexibility around what foods you're consuming, what types of meals you're making. So maybe that wouldn't be as suited to someone like that. But maybe just for people in an, you know, average working week who aren't training that much, it may be more suited to, who are just trying to eat sort of general healthy meals. Yeah.
Good.
Brilliant.
Rich?
Good stuff. Nice work. Gemma, just to finish up, like you talked about white line fever and getting back onto the field again and things like that. Would you say like a big part of all of this is actually because you enjoy it? It's fun and I'm just into it. I love it. Would that be sort of one of the things that just underpins everything that you do in regards to your hockey? Obviously there's some hurt and there's a bit of there's some ugliness amongst it as well, and you drag yourself and you put your feet on the floor. But would that be the key thing that underpins the reason why?
Yeah, I think it's the enjoyment, but it's also the enjoyment alongside other people, you know, and that's what is satisfying. Is you sit around, you train hard with your teammates, and you know, you sit around and you win a game, or you know, you do really well, and you know, you're all there, I guess, in the arena working hard for each other. And like I say, I did love running out there with my friends. So a big part, you know, we're hardwired for human connection. So that's why all these team things, these multi-sport, you know, and even the things around events, you know, you've got all these people, you've got your support crew, you know, it's so much fun, like you say, and you're doing it with other people, and I think that's what makes it so enjoyable. And you know, being a mum, and you spend a lot of time at home with your baby, and I think having an opportunity to get out and still be able to do what you love, you know, it sure is a balancing act, but that's what I missed. I missed the people, and like you say, the enjoyment of running around together and sitting together after a game, or having a coffee, or doing whatever you do. That was what was really fun for me. So that social element is huge. As humans, you know, we kind of crave that, and that's a big part of what I enjoyed about getting back out there. And it's like weekend missions with friends. You know, it's everything in life's better shared. So that was my motivation to come back, to sit around in a changing room, you know, before a game, get those nerves, play a, you know, a hard fought game, and coming together. So yeah, I love it, and I love being active. You know, most people that are active understand, I guess, the endorphins and that feeling. You know, I really enjoy that, and I want everyone to feel that good. You know, when you're exercising and you're eating well and doing everything that you can, your outlook on life just changes for the better, and you notice the good. So yeah, for me, and I'm extremely passionate about the fun of it, but also just being active, no matter what it is, if it's adventure stuff or just a short little 20-minute hit. I always feel better for it. So it's just so worth it, and it's a lifestyle for me. So you know, it was having a goal was nice for hockey, but I just love getting out in the hills or doing a HIIT workout, whatever it is, because I feel good. And that's the great thing about exercise, and it goes hand in hand with eating well, and you know, you think a bit better and you feel a bit better, and you know, it adds to quality of life. And I think that's, you know, that's important for me and my family, and that's why we do it as well.
One final question from me, Gemma. I'm always constantly building my defence and against Cushla here. Do you enjoy a beer, a wine, or a gin or three at the end of a day's training?
Probably I used to, but not anymore. To be honest, we don't drink a lot. Which,
Thank you, Gemma.
but I know I did back in the early days. There was a bit more of a culture around, having a drink after a game, and I've had, a few good nights. My teammates will tell you. But like I say, probably these days, with a baby, and in the last few years, that's me personally. Don't get me wrong. I used to enjoy a drink. But we're probably more inclined, it sounds a bit boring, but to, enjoy a dessert or something after a hard day. Just again, when you're training 6 days a week, you can't really, drink a lot. Not many of the girls do unless we don't know about it. But, a couple of times a year, you might push the boat out. But for us personally, we don't drink a lot. Sorry, just to be really honest, but we do have treats, in terms of food and things like that, and we definitely used to. But for recovery and just how you feel, I can't say we drink a lot. We get called teetotalers by my mum. She probably wishes we had a glass or two, but we'll enjoy a nice glass of red wine if we're out for dinner. But I can't say that we do drink a lot, but probably in our early 20s, after a game, that was very much the culture. But it's shifted quite a bit now. So
I'm still in my 20s, I swear.
Yeah.
I swear. Gemma, thank you very, very much for your time tonight. Thank you for sharing a bit of your history, a bit of the last period of your time in your comeback, and proving that mums can do anything. That's probably one of the great takes of it, that a mum can do anything and a lot more than others. So thank you from both Richard and I for coming. Cushla, thank you for again tonight. Hopefully we'll see you back next week. Yep.
Brilliant. Thanks, team. Much appreciated. Love your insights, and we'll look forward to catching up again soon.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
cool.
team.
Well done. Thanks, guys.
Fabulous,
Job,
Richard.
well done,
Absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, no, great. Just great to share, and Gemma is awesome, isn't she? Just in terms of the way she portrays things, the way she speaks, and just her outlook on life.
General, just brilliant. Yep. So, wow, have we had a session tonight, which has been absolutely great. But we really should wrap up the weekend that was quickly before we go. A bit of peak bagging.
Yeah, absolutely. So with peak bagging competition last weekend, we've got a few prizes and a few names to read out. So first of all, the most peaks. I don't think we have a photo of this one actually, but Isabel Stout bagged the most peaks. I think it was
Richard.
Sorry?
Stop. Let's start.
No.
Let's start. We wanted 50 peaks in total. How many did we get?
I did a bit of a count up, and we claimed 53, and that's without 53. Me claiming anything. Did you get any, Angus?
Actually, all I got was a backpack full of hats that each one of them had a peak on it. But
couldn't claim it. Yeah, the official counter guy didn't like that. Look at that, so I didn't count. So we managed to get there without that. So that was pretty cool. Heaps of cool photos of people at the top of hills on beautiful sunny days, and even I think one in the dark there as well. Was there?
Let's see what we've got here. One in the dark. Look at that.
Yeah, look at that. Just so good. Lots of good adventures. So going back, Isabel Stout just ripped along the Port Hills and bagged about 8 peaks, which was very impressive in one hit.
Isabel, I'm really sorry. I was actually on my bike and I was going across the Summit Road, and I was head down riding past, and then I was about a few hundred meters past when the penny dropped, and I was like, I think that was Isabel. So I'm sorry I didn't say hi, but I did see you out there bagging your peaks.
Brilliant. Should we go to the should we go to the best photo competition?
Best photo competition.
Look at that. How about that? Christy Jones and her dog rocking the ponytail. Almost a man.
Check out that hair tie. That's great. That? I think obviously the dog has not had a post-lockdown haircut yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Completing the challenge. Like we always wanted, sort of, being involved in getting up the hill. Aaron, Bridget, and Bryce. Have you got a picture of them there?
How's that?
There they
go.
We go
here? Top of Mount Thomas there.
Yep, top of Mount Thomas, heading up there. So well done. And Aaron and Bridget and Bryce, they've actually just about done all of our weekend challenges as well. So really cool to see them sort of tackling a local peak as well, which is pretty awesome.
And rocking a couple of good-looking hats there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Emma Carney at Mount Olivia in Mount Cook. Have you got a picture of her there?
Oh, let's have a look here. Look at that.
Look at that. What about that? So 100 meters from the summit, but unfortunately didn't bring the appropriate footwear and didn't want to skid off the other side. So had to sort of, she was trying to see if she could bag or claim the peak just about there, but couldn't quite make it. But I'm pleased that she got down in one piece. Yeah, absolutely. And the highest peak. Let's go to the highest peak. How about that? Richard McGill. This is on the top of Mount Philistine, 1,967 vertical meters, which is in the Arthur's Pass National Park. So, yeah, big day out, and he was quite interested to see whether he had got to the highest peak. So, well done. Some good mountaineering boots and helmet going on too.
I did, Richard. I did get sent one more of somebody we might actually know. Actually,
oh yes, look at that. How about that picture?
There's our resident dietitian Cushla.
Yep, ripping it up. There's Lake Coleridge in the background.
It's a stunning photo. She did try and submit that for best photo and close Cushla.
Yeah, very close. Yeah, and I do expect that she ran that pace the whole way up the hill as well.
Some good form.
Yeah, absolutely. So this weekend, in terms of our challenge, what we've got our Everest challenge for May. So basically, get out there, have an adventure, see if you can actually add on to your total for the month of May. How many vertical meters can you click off during May? So basically, that's our focus this weekend. And see what you can do out and get close to your goal. So the key thing is Mount Everest, yeah, that's 8,848 vertical meters, but also Mount Kilimanjaro, that's about 5,000 vertical meters. Mont Blanc, which is about 4,600. Whatever your goal for May is, this weekend is about getting in there and getting close to knocking it off with only sort of 1 week of May to go from there.
How are you looking?
Oh, better than I have been in the past. Kind of average. So I think I'm about 3.5, something like that, maybe. It's yeah. Kiwi's quite flat. I went for a run around the block the other day. It was 11 vertical meters.
So you're nearly at the top
of yeah. Exactly. No, work to do. You? How many vertical meters?
Actually, probably about the same. I'm probably in the 4s or something. Actually, been a bit slack this month. Actually, a few things going on that have sort of just tied us up, but that's okay. That's right.
This weekend might change that.
Plenty of people out there grabbing some really good meters. So,
yep, absolutely. That's great. Okay, well, you look after yourself. Have all the best for your weekend. Look forward to checking in on seeing how many vertical meters you managed to click in this weekend.
Yep, absolutely. As always, Richard, it's been an absolute pleasure. To everybody out there, thank you very much. This will be up on YouTube, so find our Team CPNZ YouTube channel, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get a notification whenever there's any more uploads. Instagram, Facebook, we are everywhere, Rich. We're on the trails, we're on the mountains, we're on your screen.
Brilliant. Well done, Angus. Well done for holding the show together, and yeah, till next week.
Thanks, Captain. See ya.
Well done. Thanks.